Alright friends, let's start auditing. So we've already seen auditing and investigation, the distinguish between the two. Now we are on question number 6. What are the advantages and limitations of audit? A very important question and can come for 16 marks. So it's very important you know at least 8 points each. So if you know 8 points, you need to learn at least 10 to 11 points. So effectively that would come around 20 to 22 points, out of which you're supposed to write 8 points plus 8 points, 8 for limitations and 8 for advantages. So that would be 16 points. So if you have 22 points in your pocket, you can certainly make a note. You can write it down in the exam, because 16 marks, that the answer has to be reasonably long. I'm not asking to write more and more, but I'm asking to write proportionately. So what are the advantages of audit? The first one is detection and prevention of errors and frauds. Second one, keeps the accounts clerk alert, which is very important. He knows if he commits some mistakes, the mistakes would be pointed out. If those mistakes are intentional, even those mistakes would be caught, no matter how hard he tries to cover up. There are chances that they might not come up, but if audit procedure is perfectly carried out, then the odds are against him. Third one is assurance to shareholders. That is one of the main objectives. So over here it is written as advantage, but you can write this point in the objective section as well. Suppose if a question is asked on the objectives of audit, you can of course mention this, because this is not just advantage, it's the main primary function of audit. Shareholders, they want an independent person or an authority or an entity to carry out audit, to give them and to express an opinion on the accounts of the company if everything has been in order. So that was point number 3. The fourth one is reducing disputes. So disputes, when audit is carried out by an independent person, the chances of disputes are less. If it is an internal audit, the person might be under some sort of pressure, some sort of influence, but in case of independent audit, the chances are very less. So of disputes happening, again chances are less. Fifth one is valuation of goodwill. Whenever partner enters or retires, accounts have assets, liabilities and everything is revalued, and therefore you want an opinion with that the revaluation is reasonable, is as per the norms, is as per the law, companies law. We have companies law for companies and so on and so forth, whatever is applicable to partnership firm, and therefore audit is required over there. Sixth point is valuation of business. Now there is valuation of goodwill, that was fifth point. Sixth point is valuation of business. Now what is the difference? In valuation of goodwill, you just have to find out the value of goodwill, but when it comes to valuation of business, you have to find out value of all the assets and liabilities. Seventh point is easy borrowing. What is this easy borrowing? In case of easy borrowing, this point relates to external borrowing. Whenever there is a financial crunch or whenever there is a question of expansion arises, you have to approach banks and other financial institutions. So audited account statements bank are reliable, and banks rather can place trust on such statements and extend financial assistance. Again, insurance claim is another advantage in case of a loss by fire or loss by theft or something like that. Wherever insurance is taken, the insurance authority or the insurance company would always want audited statements. Then we have 10th point, obtaining licenses. So whenever you approach a government department for some license, be it import license, export license, trading license, wherein required, whatever it is, audited statements are required. And when I say audited statements, of course audit carried out by third person, external auditor. It cannot be internal auditor who is certifying statements. Then of course you need to help investigators in case there is some fraud or something. So that was point number 11. Regular maintenance is point number 12. You can just write a line or two. Then we come to limitations of audit. See, in spite of audit being carried out, there are always going to be some limitations. This is what I was trying to tell you. in point number 2, where I said it keeps the accounts clerk alert. So whenever there is willful misrepresentation, or accountant is trying to uh, do some kind of fraud or something, chances are high that the auditor will come to know of it by scrutinizing the accounts or interview procedure or whatever, by checking the records. But there are some chances that it might not happen. There are chances are less, but there are chances it might never be it might never be caught, it might never come up. So uh, this is where this is one of the limitations, and we are going to see around 10 to 11 limitations over here. So dependence over books of accounts. Now auditor's job is it's his job mainly depends upon the books of accounts. So it's very important that the books of accounts are well written, standards are maintained, and there is zero or very little deviation. So that's one thing. Now there are many other points, so let's cover one by one. Wrong information from officers of the company. So sometimes you get wrong information on the basis of which auditor forms an opinion, and then this is what happens, because interviews, as I spoke about interviews, so interviews are kind of audit techniques. They help auditor form an opinion, and in similar situation, when the information provided by the office of the company is not correct, it might lead auditor to form a wrong opinion. Then personal qualities of auditor. Auditor, if he is a new auditor, he might not have much practical experience, and that might work against his audit technique. He might not be able to do audit as expected. So he, if I may say, below par auditor kind of thing. So once he becomes once he grows as far as auditing is concerned, he'll become more smart, and he'll know where are the areas where a mistake or a cheating or fraud is likely to happen, and then he'll focus majorly on those areas. So if personal qualities of auditor, they come into picture. Adverse effect on client staff. See, auditor is he did not have a suspicious outlook, suspicious approach. He did not suspect each and everything. He is not a bloodhound. But what happens is, sometimes there is too much of interrogation, and as a result of which the client staff might not appreciate it. So they might behave in an irresponsible manner. Okay, again. And secondly, they might try and cover up the defects and mistakes they have committed. Now, appointment of auditor. An auditor is generally appointed by the owner. So since the auditor is appointed by the owner, he may not be completely independent. So on paper he might be independent, but he might be under the influence of the owner, since he has been appointed by the owner, and he would want even next term to be appointed as an auditor. So that is where the problem arises. Okay, so he may not be independent, and this may affect his work adversely. And again, in a cooperative society or something, managing committee decides, and they would not appreciate auditor to give a qualified report or something. So they would again pressurize the auditor to give a clean report. So these are some points on limitations part. So they were not 11, of course, but then whatever it is, 6 or 7 points plus whatever 11 points we discussed, that should be good enough to get you 16 marks. You won't get 16 out of 16 obviously, but say if it's a 75% marks, 12 marks should be enough, 12-13 marks. Okay.